What's up, patients? It's Dr. Legacy again, and a little birdie just told me Chainsaw Man Part 2 just ended. Thank God. Oh my God. I just wanted to talk about it. That's what this is going to be about. Join my Discord server for cool Chainsaw Man 3D models, and thanks for watching. Let's get into it. I chose to model the Ancient Devil just because, you know, he's kind of my favorite character. He's a chill guy, and that's just like me. I'm a lazy chud. I can hardly do my homework, and I like ice cream, so obviously that's my go. I always mess with Chainsaw Man because I'm definitely a character-focused guy. I like my characters, and I just love how much focus each character ends up getting in Part 1. Specifically, I love how following Assassin's arc, we got a lot of insight in Aki's mind and his relationship with Denji and Power, and how after Denji kills the Gun Fiend, we see a new side of Denji and Power's relationship, and it feels really pure. I've seen people comment on the possible like sexual connotations of the panels around that time, and I couldn't disagree more. They're obviously vulnerable, and Power's scared, and it just results in them both being vulnerable. I think even Denji comments on how he feels. He says it's like, I feel nothing, no romantic attraction. I don't know. Well, it kind of adds on to what Makima originally said in the early Part 1. It would be different if he was doing it with someone like Reze. It would have been romantic or sexual. I just think that was a great level of depth that Part 1 had, that Part 2, or at least past the aquarium arc, it severely lacked. I haven't reread yet, but I just feel that past that point the story starts to lose that edge. For the hair, I used a new method. If you know me, I used to use curves a lot. This time though, I used a new workflow that 2AM shared, and I love it. It gives me a lot of control that I felt curves lacked, like being able to have everything watertight or manifold. It makes making off strands really easily. So that's a W2AM. I think it's somewhat of a hot take, I guess, but I absolutely hated Yoshida. I thought he was a stupid character. He had like no personality. At most, he's a plot device, and a kind of boring one at that. I think you can be a plot device and still be interesting. And Breaking Bad, Saul Goodman is a plot device. He gets Walt and Jesse out of scenarios, and Yoshida's just kind of lame though. He's nonchalant, which is almost always boring for a character, unless they're paired up with characters that conflict with that. I think Aki in Part 1 serves as that nonchalant character, but what he does that Yoshida fails to do is having an actual character. He's surrounded by people that conflict and people that work with him. He feels like a real person. What was it? Himeno wants his attention. He wants Makima's attention. He has goals and a background, and his relations with Himeno, Denji, Power, and especially the Angel Devil are all really well fleshed out. But when you look at Yoshida, he just kind of exists. He's just there. He doesn't really have a backstory, and I thought he would have been fleshed out a little bit more than the scene where he's like, I'm a switch, Denji. Someone who I do kind of respect in the plot, that's not Yoshida, is Baron, the leader of the Chainsaw Man Church, who, by the way, I think that was a horrible plot. I really thought that could have just not happened, but I kind of really respect how he serves as the plot device. Whenever he shows up, something happens, like Nayuta just gets blinked or anything. I don't know. It's cool. I like having him on screen because it forces things to happen, which I can't say for a lot of the other characters. A lot of the other characters are just kind of there and they just serve no purpose. But we're texturing now. This is the first time doing the Chainsaw Man model, so there's kind of a lot of things I do differently now. I don't like the head model. I actually ended up reshaping the model completely, which is kind of, when you see the animated version of him and it looks a little different, that just comes down to the reference being used. It's a little difficult to pick out the right one, especially since I made this like a month before the movie came out. It was kind of slim pickings. but I don't want to completely hate on part 2. I want to say that I really did enjoy reading the beginning of it, Asa, and more widely the dynamic between Asa and Yoru was a big seller for me. I read the first volume of part 2, I got in my car, I don't know, ran over someone and on my way to Barnes & Noble, and I bought the rest. I felt it was a worthy continuation of part 1. I loved Asa as a new protagonist. She was very different from Denji, and it was super refreshing to see this new scenario she was in with Yoru. It felt like the universe was expanding, and I feel like I don't know if this is a hot take, but I just feel like Denji really didn't even have to be in part 2 for it to still hold its own. In fact, I feel like there was a high chance for part 2 to like hold its own and, I don't know, be a sort of spin-off to part 1 rather than having to continue with Denji. Because even early on, they kind of drop Asa as their main protagonist pretty quickly once Denji's reintroduced, and I kind of hate it. I really don't like that. I feel like Asa had a lot of potential as a protagonist to be on par with Denji, or even better, because she was kind of a lot more interesting as a solo character. It just kind of comes down to the writing in the story. I feel like the relationship between Denji and Asa, while it was interesting at first up until the aquarium arc, after that they kind of keep putting Asa in the cuck chair. It's really weird. I don't like how Yoru gets to do all this stuff with Denji and Denji just does it. It doesn't feel like my Denji. It feels like they've regressed him a lot. You know, just a ton of lazy writing, I guess. That's what it's chalked up to. The wings were actually pretty interesting for me to do. I've never made wings before, and I feel that there were definitely better ways to handle
You should subscribe
it,
right now.
I basically just sketched out the outline of it, extruded a cube, made some feathers,
just do that.
duplicated those a lot until it was like filled. And you know, I had some wings, ruffled them up, boom, boom, rigging. Rigging is kind of boring. You know what else was kind of boring? Nayuta. Quite frankly, I like Nayuta as a character, but I'm also kind of glad that she dies. I just don't like how it happens and how it doesn't do much for Denji. I feel like her death should have had more of a permanent impact on him, and the fact that it doesn't, it just kind of makes her death a little meaningless. I thought it would, because it was kind of the first death in Denji's life that was a direct result of his like selfish desire to be Chainsaw Man. You know, the way he kind of disregards her once he transforms. It just feels like a total character regression of Denji. Not even a regression. This is just, it doesn't feel like something Denji would do. Now we're setting up Angel Devil for rendering, which is pretty fun. I like seeing my models like this, and you know, rendering and such, themes and such. You know, I used this cool face add-on. I don't remember what it was. This was like 6 months ago, but I never used it again. It was pretty nice. It's a little laggy though, but I just set up all the armature and stuff, and now we're starting to pose. And there's something about this is that I was kind of following a reference for some of these. You can see my reference on the side. What the original vision of it was supposed to look like. Vision, discord.gg/bsnbrc. But yeah, as I was making it, I just decided to change it up a little bit, and ended up kind of making this little unique design. And I do like how the final poster ended up turning out. Of course, it's not as good as my more recent models. I'll throw boom, boom, boom. You see, these are pretty good. I like these a lot. These are. Angel Devil's not as good as these. I'm actually planning on redoing this head, and you can see about that in my Discord server, discord.gg/bsnbrc. And boom, you know, we're done. Boom, let's show up the posters. Boom, 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 boom. Here they are. It looks pretty good, right? Nice poster. Yeah. You've already seen the animations. I've foiled you enough, right? Again, you know, I absolutely adore Chainsaw Man. It's one of my favorite pieces of media, and I'm obviously beyond excited for season 2. I just have pretty strong opinions about part 2, and I didn't even get to a lot of the bigger points that I wanted to make. I had to cut it short because of my footage. I had about like 5 paragraphs that I had written up. So, you know, if you have stuff you want to bring up that you want to talk about, let me know in the comments, or join my server. I'd be so down to have conversations. I already have so many conversations about Chainsaw Man in my server. discord.gg/bsnbrc, and I have plenty of models in there, you know. But that's it.
Whatever those rumors are, they're Genshin Impact avatar.
Swear on him.
Dude, don't do that.
Yo!